name is Rabbi Yaakov Ben Maizbach from the Chicago Rabbinical Council. Today, we will discuss how to prepare a proper Seder plate for Pesach. It is very important that the Seder must start immediately when one comes home from synagogue. This is in order to have the children and the adults to be wide awake in order to be able to perform the mitzvahs, the commandments of the Seder. Also, you must have all the supplies beforehand prepared in order that things should go smoothly and in an orderly fashion so the Seder can move on. Now we'll discuss Matza. Up to 150 years ago, the only thing that was available was hand Matza. However, within time, machinery came and they were able to produce machine Matza. So, generally used for the Seder is handmade Matza. However, people who can't get handmade Matza or rather use the machine Matza, it is also fine to use for the Seder. It must be noted that egg Matza is not permitted to be used at the Seder because there's the mitzvah of Matzah is lechem oni, the poor man's bread, which only consists of flour and water. Also, wheat is the best form of matzah to use, and whole wheat is also fine. When picking your hand-round matzahs for the Seder, there are two things to be careful to look for. There are times that you will find in your box a matzah that is called kfula, which means folded, and matzah that are nefucha, which means there are air pockets. In regards to kfula, as you'll see here on the pictures, there is folded over in the middle of the matzah, or it's curled over on the corner, and again, as you see this one, it's also bent over, and again, curved over. What you have to do with those things is, you should remove that part of that matzah and about an inch away from all areas of that matzah and discard it, and you can continue to eat the rest of the matzah. Nefucha, blown up, we don't find it as often because the way we make round hand matzahs is we put holes in it. As you see in this picture, this would be a nefucha that did not have any holes made in the preparation of the matzah. As this picture shows, there is holes in this matzah, which shows that it was blown up and popped. It's important to note that if the hole is less than an inch, it does not go in the category of nefucha, and you don't have to do anything. Only if it's more than an inch, then you have to cut around it and discard. In regards to the wine being used at the Seder, it is preferable to use red wine unless the white wine is a better wine. Also, it is better to use non-mevushal wine over mevushal wine. And the same goes for unflavored versus flavored, or unsweetened wine versus sweetened wine. It's always better to have nothing added to the wine for the Seder. If it's too difficult for the person to drink wine, or it's too hard to drink straight wine, you can use grape juice, or you can dilute the wine with some water to make it easier for them to drink. As we continue preparing for the Seder, we will now show how to prepare the karpas. The Gemara states that any vegetable is good to use for karpas. However, it is preferable to use something with a birchas ha'adama, and that can be eaten raw. But it's very important to remember, whatever your custom is to do in your house, you should continue doing it. For example, people could use radishes, celery, carrots, potatoes once it's cooked. The Chayyim brings down that in his times they used onions because that's the only vegetable they had. However, nowadays people don't really eat raw onions, and there's a question then on the bracha on it, so it's preferably not to do onions. But again, if it's your custom to eat onions, continue eating onions. And also remember that whenever you use the vegetable, cut them into small pieces. Once you have the vegetables prepared already for the Seder prior to Pesach, then you got to make salt water. You take water and salt, and you put salt into it. You got to be very careful to make sure that the salt that you use on Pesach does not have any iodine in it. Also, make sure to make the salt water before Pesach. If by mistake you forgot and you didn't, so you can either use the wine or vinegar to dip the vegetable in, or you can make a small quantity of the salt water just for the Seder. Continuing on preparing for the Seder, Maror. It is preferable to use the romaine lettuce, even though it might not be as bitter. At the CRC, we recommend to only use romaine hearts instead of buying the whole romaine because they are much cleaner. You can buy them in bags in a store, romaine hearts. As how to check romaine hearts for bugs, please look at the CRC video on romaine checking. Horseradish. Do not use for the Seder plate or for the Seder for Maror jarred horseradish. Rather, you should buy the root. Go ahead, before you do anything, before you grind it, it must be peeled. Some people use peelers. I prefer using a knife. Once it's peeled off, you take it and you wash it under water. And then you take a grater on the finer side. Now, very important, this is a warning, make sure you have plenty of ventilation when you do it. You have the windows open, you can go outside and do it, but make sure you have plenty of ventilation because we don't want to have to call Hatzalah. And you go like this, and you do it on the fine side until you get it done. Once you've done it, you take it and you put it into a bowl with a cover on it. Prior to the Seder, you should take it out in order that it should lose some of its strength, in order that you shouldn't get sick when you eat it by the Seder. Other people have a custom that they use Belgian endives. If that is your custom, they're much cleaner. We recommend also taking it apart and checking through them and washing them prior to use. Charoses is a pasty creation to remind us of the cement that was used by the Jews when they were enslaved in Egypt. We will now show how to make charoses. Apples. What we do is we take apples, we peel the apples, and then again take the grater and we grate it into a bowl. Then we take walnuts and we put it in the bowl, and ground almonds, we put them in a bowl, and we take cinnamon sticks. Cinnamon sticks, we make it where you cut them in half so they should look like sticks of being a part of the cement, and you just throw it in, do not grind them, in order that it should still look like a stick. Ginger, you peel the ginger, then you pull off by the strings of the ginger, and the purpose for this is to remind us of the straw that was used in the cement in Egypt. Other people have the custom of using dates, figs, lemons, put some juice in there. Once you put all the ingredients in, you make it and you mix it and mix it until you have a very thick paste. Then you have completed making the charoses. Prior to using the charoses at the Seder, you take wine, preferably red, and pour it over it. However, if Pesach falls on Shabbos, this should be done prior to Shabbos. Continuing on the Seder, Zroa. The Zroa is in remembrance of the Korban Pesach of when we had the Beis Hamikdash. You could either take, and it's preferably take a piece of meat or a piece of chicken, preferably the wing, in remembrance of the outstretched arm that God took us out of Mitzrayim. Or the shinko, many people have the custom, which is also the closest piece of meat from the arm. You would take it, here I have, for example, a wing, remove the top, and in order not to make such a mess, and you put it over the fire until it becomes completely broiled. Other people have the custom to use a chicken neck. Beya, part of the Seder plate. It's remembrance of the Korban Chagiga that was brought with the Korban Pesach. You should have a hard-boiled egg. Then the custom is that you burn it at the edge. So the way to make it easy is you make a little crack on it in order that when you put it over fire, it shouldn't blow up. And then you just put it onto the flame for a minute until it gets a little dark. When is that complete? You take it off, and you're ready for the beya on the Seder plate. Now that we have finished preparing all the items for the Seder plate, we will now show you the custom of how to set the Seder plate. We have the chazaras, which is one type of maror. Then we have the charoses here. And on the left, we have the karpas. In the middle, we have the maror, which we grounded and part of the root. And on the right side here, we have the zroa, which again is for the Korban Pesach, the Zeichel Korban Pesach. And on the left, we have the beya, which is in commemoration of the Korban Chagiga. Also part of the Seder plate is you take 3 whole matzahs and you put them inside your kara, 1, 2, 3. And you also have on the table ready the salt water to be able to dip the karpas. There are other customs of how to set the Seder plate. This is the custom of the Ramah, where you have the karpas and the salt water in front, because you're going to use that first, followed by the matzah in the middle, and then on its side you have the maror and the charoses, and then the furthest out you have the zroa and the beya, because you're not going to be using those. Once we've completed all the symbolic items that are on the Seder plate, we now begin the Shulchan Aruch, the meal. It's very important to know a few things. At the meal, there should be a bowl of hard-boiled eggs together with salt water. It's customary to eat it at that time. Also, any meat and chicken that are prepared should not be roasted. There should be always water added to it in order that it shouldn't be confused with the Korban Pesach that was brought roasted. Also, do not eat too much in order that you should have an appetite when you eat the afikomen. In regards to keeping food warm when Pesach, Passover, falls out on a Friday night, I have a few suggestions for you. At this time, on behalf of myself and the entire Chicago Rabbinical Council, we wish you and your family a happy and a healthy Passover.